South America that are in there. None of you guys have.
Now we have three.
Oh,
We picked up the brother, the sister of our brown one
did you?
from the owner. She was going out of business,
Yeah.
and she gave her away. But, I mean, she was, and then we spent.
Come on to our house. Let's go.
I know. And she goes, I need a wire. I need a, I said, can I pass first? Can I die? Then you get the fourth one.
You can do all the dogs
But
you
the
want.
three, I mean, our bed's getting a little crowded now. So.
I know. Well,
But we wouldn't change a thing. So we'll have to do a play date sometime.
Absolutely.
I know.
He's still inviting food. I've got somebody He's ready.
Oh yeah, ours did. She's 8 years old. She doesn't know one command. I mean, she was. I think they puppy milled her, and just she didn't know stop.
She's gonna pee and just
Everywhere.
Yeah, I know.
We're going through that. It's
I
like
know.
having a new baby.
I know it is. I know.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take much. All right. Finally, it only took me 10 minutes to get it going. Glad I came in not last minute. No way, that's.
What's that? I missed last week. I was out of town. So everybody's dropping. Now I'm the only guest.
Guys, I'm gonna be tardy for just a second, if that's all right there, man. Just making a copy of Call the meeting, special meeting of Bridgeport City Council to order. Madam Clerk, if you would do roll, please.
Mayor Robert McKean.
Present.
Recorder Hank Murray.
Here.
Councilmember Jason Campbell.
Here.
Councilmember Don Burton. Councilmember Clayton Rice.
Here.
Councilmember Jacqueline Hollander. Here. Councilmember Chris King.
Here. Councilmember Burton's excused. Okay, public comments. Steve Ludwig, if you would step up to the mic, please.
Everybody hear me okay? Yep.
Here you good.
All right, here we go. Thanks for taking my comments. I missed the last meeting, apologize, out of town, but then just trying to catch up and then getting a lot of feedback from just the hoteliers. I really don't want to retread anything we talked about last week. And I wasn't here I didn't play it back or anything, but I got the gist. Did want to bring in a couple of other facts that maybe weren't talked about. Again, I think everybody in the hotel side is, would like to see the EMS fee go away. That would be the best outcome as of July 1. Freeze at $3 at the worst. That would be, and in terms of looking at some of the numbers here, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Smith Travel Research reports, and I don't know if that came up last week or not, but that company is the gold standard in hotel data benchmarking, analytics, and marketplace insights. It's a perfect kind of report for destination marketing organizations like the Greater Bridgeport CVB. We aren't taking full advantage of that right now. Right now, we're just getting an occupancy number, average rate. That's all we're getting for the entire month. Daily data is available. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You have a big investment in the bridge. You can see every week, a week later than it happened, hey, did that soccer tournament drive hotel rooms into the city year over year? We don't have any way to measure that right now. That information is available. It's affordable. And I would just encourage council to, and again, these folks are fine to set up a call, talk everybody through how they come up with their numbers. These are all, we don't send them the numbers, the brands send them in, and the incentive for them to be accurate is the brands want to charge us. Our fees are based on room revenue, so it's a percentage of, so they want to make sure they're right. We don't see what they send, and then that report gets aggregated into this report, comes out, right now this comes out once a month, so that's all we see. So I would encourage, there's deeper looks. This is about a 2-page report that you get. Our Wingate gets about a 23-page report, a lot of detail, a lot of segmentation. Just would encourage that. Along those lines, kind of I started looking at just start of this year through April, and figuring that some of these folks, were grandfathered through the end of the year and now they're paying, and how has that changed since then. So really, January, February, March, not a lot of change. There was, but April really took a dip. And so when you think about it, first quarter, not that many, it's still winter, not a lot of conferences, not a lot of outdoor tournaments, but April kind of things start to swing up. Last year we ran, as a city, 77%. 77.2% April 25. This April we ran 71.2%. That means there were 4,626 less occupied rooms in April of this year than last year. Citywide room revenues are down. Let me get my number here. And that's about a $378,000 difference year over year. So that's less, $378,000 less room revenue that we collected for hotel tax, not available for hotel tax. And then those folks aren't available to pay the fee either. So something to look at there. As hotelier, we just finished up May, so we kind of know what May looks like, and May's down. Down at our hotel, everybody I've talked to is down. We can see 30 days into the future, we know what's on the books for June. And our numbers are very soft there, so it's really concerning to us that it's the start of it could be the start of an alarming trend, and we don't want to see that happen. And just to give you some context, Smith Travel divides West Virginia in half, north and south, and we're in the north area of West Virginia. So that's Morgantown, Wheeling, it's actually the Panhandle. Through April, they were up 1.6%. The state of West Virginia was up 1.2%. City of Bridgeport down 1%. So I know that we got a lot of pride here. We don't think we should be taking a backseat to anybody in northern West Virginia or the state of West Virginia with all the things that we have here. So I'm asking for on behalf of the hotel community, just asking for some relief from City Council and EMS, and also at a later date, an update from the Bridgeport CVB is what they can do to stimulate hotel room demand during our busy months of, now through October. Bringing some solutions, trying to. As of March 16th, we no longer have a debt service payment to the Bridgeport Conference Center. That was about $10,000 a month. That generates about $120,000 a year. That could be available to redirect to either, I would prefer it be marketing the city, could be referred to help offset some of the fire fee that you might be foregoing for that. And so that's about $10,000 a month. Don't know if this is, I believe it's accurate. We haven't updated the fire fee for residents since 2007, so it may be something to take a look at. This is just an idea. I'm not endorsing this necessarily, but just another way to look at this, one of the big complaints that the hotels have is the arguments with the guests, because they get there and they go, oh, it was $3 more. Now I don't have $3, I gotta put it on my card. And so that's a big guest satisfaction issue. If there a way to, maybe you revise the way you do the fire fee for hotels, right? Just like you do, and it shows up on the city sewer bill, sewer and water bill, utility bill that shows up. But you do it based on the information that we give to you of, like, here's how many occupied rooms we had that qualify for the $3, freeze the 3. And that may be a way to eliminate the arguments that we're having daily throughout the day with guests. So don't know if, again, that would be less any grandfathered exempt stays. Also, I provided a impact statement from Ashley Kaiser. She's with Holiday Inn Express. So just wanted to enter it. I'm not going to read that. Just enter that into the record. And with that, available for questions. I'll stick around if you want to talk about it, or a later work session, just let me know.
Steve, thank you. Council, does anybody have any questions for Steve while he's up at the podium? All right, thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Okay, we have nobody else signed up for public comments, but if there's anybody here, we certainly hear from them. Seeing none or hearing none, then we will move to the next item. Item 5.1 is under new business. It's discuss and, if appropriate, act on emergency service fee ordinance. Manager, would you want to bring us up to speed on that?
Absolutely. So after our discussion last week, council members asked for a lot of information. So, I want to thank our finance staff, the police and fire staff, the 911 center, everybody involved with that for helping put all this data together. We've heard numerous. We've had a meeting with our CVB and our hoteliers. We had a lot of the hoteliers here last week, and I think you guys now have a clear picture of what they're going through, what they're experiencing. But I do want to share some of the information we put together for you. So the first document it says Bridgeport Hotel Impact on the Fire Fee, and this was a direct request from council last week. I've had several conversations where council members say, well, could we not increase the fire fee on the hotels alone to make up for some of that difference? We did break it down for the last 12 months, the 12 months of 2025 for you on the second page. But the end total is, the collections of the fire fee are on a yearly basis. Last year's basis was $27,531. So, Chief, would that be about half of an employee? Yeah. So, probably not even that. Maybe a third of an employee. So, I hope that shows, there's a lot of talk about fire fees, a lot of talk about that. I did break it down for you on how that's, I should say Sharon broke it down for us, but how it's broken down. So inside the city limits, our budget, we base it on about $750,000. About $412,000 of that comes from residential, and about $337,000 of that comes from commercial. And we collect, I think Amy told me about 98 to 99% of that, because it's billed through your water bill. So outside city limits is a little harder. We collect about $305,000, and of that, the bulk of it is residential, about $234,000 of that, and commercial, $7,150. And we collect about probably in the 70% range is what they told us with that. And we have a lot of the people that like to scream taxation without representation, even though they're getting representation without taxation and a big, big, big discount on their insurance bill, because we are an ISO 1 community, where if they had to drop to some of the struggling volunteers around us, they would probably be somewhere, what you think, 5? Somewhere in that neighborhood, probably? Yeah. So there's that information for you there. So I hope that clears the air a little bit on how that's done. The next document I'd like you to look at says Bridgeport Hotel Impact on B&O Taxation. So,
Manager, can I
Yes.
interrupt just real quick?
Yes, absolutely.
And I think it's an error on my fault. I thought I read somewhere that ordinance at one time or does include like apartment buildings per room, or is that some bad information that I get out on the web?
From my understanding, if they receive a water bill, they receive their own fire.
For apartments?
It goes to the building owner.
And
Okay.
I think it's different in different apartment buildings. Some, I think the whole apartment complex person pays that whole fee, and then some, I think it's broken down.
Yes, I guess my question, Chief or Sharon, is it a flat $100 a year, or is it by the square footage? On an apartment?
Residential,
No, on an apartment.
If I could interject,
Yeah.
it's paid by square footage,
Okay, the apartment.
by the size of the apartment building.
Okay, very good.
Whether
I'm
it's
sorry.
Simpson in or Simpson out, it's by square footage, I'm certain of that.
commercial buildings are a little bit different, but the other one is anything under 2,500 square foot is $80, anything above is flat fee.
Oh, okay, thank you. I didn't want to get too far ahead and trying to keep things straight in my head. Thank you, Clay.
So on the Bridgeport Hotel impact on the B&O taxation, that was another item that was brought up. What I prepared here, this is based on January of 25 through 12 of 25, so a 12-month period. The total hotel income reported was $25,669,000, which resulted in a B&O tax payment paid of $206,553 in B&O taxes. The one thing, the way our bills are collected, that includes any room stay fees, so your normal room rental rates, any rentals, events, catering, retail sales, that all goes into that as a lump sum. The total B&O collected in all categories during that same time period was $12,840,000. So the percentage of the B&O generated from hotel is 1.6% of our budget. I will refer you to the second page, and then I printed off a page that the mayor asked for that has additional B&O information on there. So what you're looking at is the B&O collections on the smaller page that's stapled there is from the calendar year 25, and we ran the same report for the calendar year 24. So the two things that I will show you is the funds that I just explained, the $206,000, those are in line item number 10, which is under rental, royalties, and fees. So you can see if you compare 24 to 25, you can see there was an increase there, but there's other items, that are pertinent in there. So, I would think the more telling number would be number 14, which is the income we receive for hotel occupancy, which is our 6% hotel motel tax. I think if you look at from year to year, if we were decreasing, that's where we would see it from the collections that we receive on that tax, which has to be reported. So you can see on the 25 that the hotel occupancy received was 1.375 million, and in 24 for the same time period was 1.24 million. So that's an increase of about $130,000 from 24 to 25.
That's 6% hotel motel. Is that in addition to regular sales taxes?
Yes, that's a
there's-
state. It's well, I think I don't want to get corrected here if I say something wrong, but I believe you have to have a CVB, and so we collect. The city collects that amount, and we split it 50-50 with the CVB.
Right.
And I think you have to have a CVB to collect it, I believe.
Right.
And the other half is statutory. It's geared towards certain items, tourism-related items, parks and recreation, or several of the items that you can use that money for.
So if I'm understanding this right, then we actually, the hotel guests are charged 13% in taxes then. 6% sales tax, 6% hotel motel, and a 1% bridge tax. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
The next item I want you to see, it's the summary of of all those fees that the finance department put together. And I won't read all of this to you. Some of those same numbers, Sharon has them broke down more for the physical year as opposed to the calendar year, the way Encode ran that report for us. So you can see those, right there at the bottom of the page, she has it broken down per physical year. Well, no, that was not physical year. I'm sorry, that's not. But you can see the last 3 years there that at the low in 24 was 1,073,000 up to 1.1 million in July of 25 through March of 26. So I think she was pulling out part of the year to show you where we're at compared to the same time frames the last several years. Let's see. The fire fees, we've gone through that pretty thoroughly. The 1% sales tax, she has information on that as well. And she has some historical numbers on those fire fees that as they've been collected there for you as well. So any questions on those numbers for Sharon or me? I know you guys have had that document for a week or so. All right, the next two we're going to have is, I asked Chief Rogers and Chief Pig to prepare some anecdotal information to kind of show you guys the impact. I had one of the hoteliers tell me that we didn't really give them any services, and maybe their particular hotel was very lucky, but I don't think that's happening all over the place. So the next report is for the Bridgeport Police Department, and I would ask Mark if he would be so willing to come up and surmise that for us, because he would do a much better job than myself.
I don't know if you've had the opportunity to read some of it. I'd be willing to go through it with you if you so choose, or I can just answer questions based off of what you've read.
I would like you to surmise it. I mean, we've heard a lot of that from the hotels, a lot of anecdotal information, and but I think the flip side of that coin is very important as well. So I would like you at least to cover some of the highlights and explain some of those numbers and what that means to the police department. So.
Yeah, I think what would be beneficial from my standpoint has response activity from EMS and police decreased, like it was somewhat represented. It's been calm. It's not taking the resources it did. If you can bring that out to light, it would help.
I can only speak for the police department aspect of it. I believe they have decreased since 25 into 26, early 26. I believe that's a direct correlation of when we provide the service, and I believe that we're going to charge a fee for it. I instruct the officers of the Bridgeport Police Department to make sure that they're doing their due diligence to go out and make sure that they maintain presence, especially in the evening hours, because that's where we find the majority of crime happens, is after all of the hotel, occupants come back to their rooms, get settled in. Some people in this world, unfortunately, will go out and prey upon people that are away from their home and get into their vehicles, as many work vehicles, tools stolen. That's what we have to contend with at times. And so I know I heard the hoteliers, and I respect Steve as well as all the rest of them. We had a great meeting. In fact, we had 2 meetings scheduled early on a couple years ago, and Steve was one of the only people to show up. And so I really respect the fact that he's been to the majority of these meetings and has always been very open and honest with dialogue back and forth with us. So one of the things I heard was, are we going to get, are we really going to get the services? Is it just, we're just going to show up when they need it? We show up preemptively. That's one of the things that for the police, it's difficult for fire to do that. That's not really their role. we're more strategic in the fact that we get out and try to be proactive, and proactivity creates a better circumstance for the customers that serve, that all the hotels serve in our area, as well as makes it easier for us long-term, so we don't have to expend as much time. Are there certain calls for service that happen at the hotels? You know, just a few of the highlights were we had shooting at a hotel, we've had multiple overdoses, we've had overdose deaths, as well as suicides that are complicated at times. All these things factor into the amount of service that the Bridgeport Police Department provides. One call would be a domestic. We go to a hotel for a domestic. It may just be a few hours of input from an officer or a couple of officers, but I can tell you from the aspect of when we had a rash of vehicle break-ins that were targeting hotel lots, we had a coalition of officers from 3 counties, because it wasn't just affecting Harrison County, it wasn't just affecting Bridgeport. This was Marion County, Mon County, everywhere around us. And so we brought in people along with emergency services to put up drones to try to track these people down, and we were successful at doing that. And the amount of hours that go into an investigation like that are countless. And it's not just from our standpoint, it's from the standpoint of the other agencies throughout our area that accompanied us to try to fix this problem, because we were getting it more than most, and we were successful at doing that. But I have to say that we don't do that if we don't have this issue if a hotel's not there. And I'm not blaming the hotels for being there, because Lord knows we've all used a hotel at some point in our lives. But we want to make sure that the people that come to Bridgeport know if they have to pay a $3 fee or $4.50 fee or ultimately a $6 fee, they're getting the best service they possibly can. We got tools back to individuals that thought, I'll never see these tools again. You know, $20,000 worth of tools. They are shocked that we're able to do that. And that's the service that we provide to their customers on a daily basis. Now, whether they actually call us for help or if we show up there preemptively, those are the two differences. So I can only talk about the 1,445 calls that we've had to the hotels since the beginning of 2024 up until yesterday when they ran these numbers. They've gone down 732 calls for service at all the hotels in 2024. In 2025, it was 555, and up to date in 2026 is 198. So I think it's a direct coalition or whatever it is. Yeah,
It's easy for you to
easy,
say.
yeah. So it directly shows that with the officers being in the areas, preemptively doing their checks and doing all the things that we know will help them out long term, that's why these numbers are going down. I believe that, and I would challenge anybody to say that's not the case.
Any other questions for the chief? Well, Chief, thank you. It's been very informative. We may call on you again.
That's fine, sir.
As the discussion continues. Thank you.
Greg, would you like to discuss some of the data you put together?
So you guys saw all the call numbers we have. You have any questions on the ones that we put together for you before I start? Okay. I think the big thing for us, we get called. Like, we don't just show up and look for a call. When we get a call at a hotel, we've been called to that. The big thing for us is the amount of time that we're on scene and the amount of resources that it takes to handle some of these calls. Like the total from 24 until, I think ours actually ran until just May, was 296 total calls, which was approximately 575 responses just from us. That doesn't count the mutual aid that we bring in and help from other agencies. So our calls and the amount of resources and the amount of man hours that we put into it is all based on the type of call that we're being called to. You know, as Chief Rogers said, some calls take 15, 20 minutes. Some of our calls take 3 and 4 hours, depending on what they are. And a lot of times it does tie up a lot of our resources. And it's not a negative thing. It's part of our job. And we're understanding of that. This was just something that was brought up and we had looked into originally. So.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for the chief? All right, again, if you stick around, if you don't have anywhere to be, there might be some other questions. Thank you. Thank you. Manager?
Yeah, so, so as you can see, we put, a lot of effort into it, and, and I thought that was important because we have a lot of new faces on council, and, and I felt like, there were some great questions, and I hope I tried to answer those with the help of our team here, to the best of our abilities, because it seems like there's a lot of confusion, a lot of head shaking, a lot of, I don't understand, so, I think it was important to hear both sides of that, and to understand what we're facing, with, the only thing I can tell you from this seat is, we have some of the, probably the best emergency services staff in the state. And, we want to make sure they have the tools they need. We want to make sure that they're safe and that they return home to their families every evening. And, but I think we also have, we have a duty to those visiting our community, as well as our residents here, to provide those services and provide them to the best of our ability. And, unfortunately, a lot of that comes with a cost. And, so, I know that this was done with the intention of providing those resources that we desperately need. A lot of our surrounding areas are struggling, so we end up on a lot of mutual aid calls. But we also get mutual aid too when we have some of the bigger issues, especially on the fire side, or, with the numerous drug issues and things that happen, and especially right along the interstate and around the hotels and around the rest stops and all that stuff, that we rely on a lot of outside help with that as well. So, but, I just think it's important that we, that we don't hamper our departments. I feel like, being with the city as long as I have, that I feel like we have a group of department heads that strive to be the best. And, in some regards, it may seem a little self-serving or a little, like prideful, but, I personally would never want to see that squashed, that we don't continue to provide the best services. I mean, go down and look at some of the stuff that we have in the ambulance that, and I forget the name of it, Greg, you can help me, but it does automatic CPR for them, I mean, we provide services that you don't see in this state, and, so, I just wanted to reiterate that, when I look at these fees and look at this stuff, that I just see a group of people trying to provide the best services they can to anybody that comes through our community for whatever reason, so.
All right, thank you. And was there any questions for the manager? I mean, we can come back and forth. I'm going to try to be very open for everybody, but we just got to keep a little bit of order. So if we don't, if Councilor Romger, if you don't mind starting the conversation, we'll work up. But if anybody needs to jump in or whatever, let's just try to be considerate of each other, and I know everybody will.
Okay, a few thoughts, and they're directed at different people. So if you don't mind, Steve, have rates gone up if occupancy's gone down since the occupancy tax has increased?
Down, rates are up slightly, but the net effect is that we're, when I look at April in particular, occupancy is the big driver. So
Okay.
rates are about the same, but I think, again, it's hurting us with our negotiating our customers, because we've got to factor in these costs, and if we're looking into next year, if we're looking at potentially going to $4.50 a night, I mean, we're only talking only $90. That doesn't sound like a lot, but I mean, that's, you add.
Yeah.
And that's a hit on top of the hotel tax we already charge, and so that's the, so that would be my.
If there's any way for us to include it as a tax and not be an after fee when guests arrive, would that affect it?
The council to see if that's, I mean, we have a fire fee in there.
Right.
I mean, a couple people came up with that. I mean, I opened my utility bill today. It's different, the fire fee is the same every month currently, but my utility bill is different every day. So to me, it didn't seem like, okay, well, what if that fee was the $3 plus times the eligible EMS tax rooms?
Yes.
And we pay it anyway, but we're paying it behind the scenes, so to speak. We're paying it as it may just be looking at that fire fee in a different way.
So I guess my question for Joe or for obviously John, what does it entail to switch the fee to a tax so that it is included on the third party, which I know I've had a conversation with Joe about?
The city is not authorized to enact that tax.
Okay.
They are authorized under 81313 to enact fees for services that they render to people within the city limits. And that's what this is. The transient occupancy fee was enacted under.
Okay.
So it could never be structured like a tax.
So we don't keep coming back to the same thing. So how do you guys charge the fire fee then? Is it a separate fee that?
It's separate, it's for certain reservation systems, most people don't call and book a room anymore, it's all online.
Right.
And there are certain fees, especially if we're working with a third party like Expedia or something like, they don't collect that fee.
Right, so does
That's,
this fire
that's,
fee?
that's not accurate.
And they report that, but then we have to ask the guest, oh, by the way, you pay $90 plus this, your hotel occupancy tax, and then now there's a $3 fee that we need to collect from you right now.
Well, how do you get the fire fee though? We understand that there's this extra
Fire
$3.
fee just shows up on our utility bill.
Okay, so you're paying that.
If I'm a,
Yeah, so is there,
if my Microtel hotel, we get the water bill, there it is, it's on the bill, it's on the utility bill.
Yeah.
So,
The only thing I would add to that is that Expedia and their holdings do pay the city. So the fees they collect, Expedia, one of their things when you book through them is they say all fees included, all taxes and fees included. It says that right on the screen. But we do receive payments from Expedia. And to my understanding, Steve may know better than me, there's another large holding similar to Expedia that has several different platforms, and they refuse to collect it. So I think some of them do get collected. Anything that's through Expedia or their holdings, they do pay that. We do have an account set up with them. They pay that on a monthly basis. But there's another big one, and I can't recall the name of it, that will not. They said their attorney said they don't have to collect it. So, but just a side note.
so for you guys,
we're in charge of collecting the tax, so, I mean, that's our job.
so you just
Tax.
fit the fire fee into the bill the same way your utility costs are factored into it. It's just factored into your overhead.
I mean, we already pay a fire fee.
Right, that's what I'm saying, but it's just factored into your overhead. And
For
it's
some reason that was revised, you probably have to revise the old ordinance and do it a whole different way, but, I don't think you just start calling it a tax or a fee, whichever way it is, I get confused. But no, we have to engage with the guests, and that's, the guests are going, well, I go up to Fairmont, I don't pay that. I go over to the Holiday Inn, the Hilton Garden Inn in Clarksburg on Emily Drive, don't pay it. And it's telling that nobody else has, no other municipalities have really chosen to go this route, okay? A couple of the counties have, but they got one ambulance in Preston County. I mean, I'm exaggerating. Tucker County the same way. So if there was some statewide solution, I mean, we're fine with whatever. Hotel and lodging, or the hotel association is opposed to this. They don't feel government should pick winners and losers. That's their words, not mine. But you know, I go back to my original argument was, you know, with Mark, you know, a year and a half ago, which is like, why are we getting picked on? Why not Sheets? Why not? You know, there's lots of other public places that have activity, maybe a lot more active than us. But I didn't win that argument. So, yeah.
anything else?
I guess we know what the original $3 went toward. What specifically is the additional $150 going towards?
150 that goes into effect July 1st is earmarked for the police department.
Anything specific?
At the time, no, because I don't gear it towards anything that I don't have the money accessible to. The initial was to make sure that the fire department, I gave up, it was supposed to be split 50-50 from the beginning, and I thought it was important that they got their personnel, because I think it's super important to the safety of the city. So I was willing to give that up the first year, knowing that the next year we would do $1.50. That can be utilized for personnel and or equipment. UHC and the police department has a contract. They pay for 5.5 officers. At some point, and we've never had this discussion, should they choose to do away with that, I don't want to riff officers. So I want to have the available funds to make sure that officers that could be displaced because of that, we wouldn't have to do that. I mean, I think it's vitally important. We're at a number right now that I think the city gets great service from the police aspect of things. And it's just something that I keep in the back of my head because we've seen WVU as a system go to like one campus armed security. And UHC's been very prevalent with the police service. And, so that's one of the main things I would look at initially. The other thing that we looked at was a debt service for a new police department. Obviously, we've kind of had some ebb and flow in that, and I'd like to revisit that in the future. But it's not necessarily, the number we looked at previously was pretty high, and we want to make sure that we utilize the funds correctly. And if we're able to put that into an escrow during that course of time, and then pay a larger lump sum towards a new facility, love to see that happen as well. So there's lots of different things, but I haven't earmarked anything because I'm not with my cart before the horse.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I think the important thing there is that, this building, it houses, all the administrative offices, Public Works on the back, and then the police department over here to your right. And, especially the Public Works and police department are extremely tight. They're all busting at the seams. And I think the original concept was, they purchased the property up here on the hill. We were going to relocate the police department, and for various reasons that didn't work out well. I can tell you that the mayor and I have talked, and we're looking at some other properties. And one of the other thoughts was to move Public Works from this building to build them a facility that's a little more appropriate for their size and scope and the space issues they have, then take that whole back of the building off and build, the proper facilities that we need for a police department here, on this building, and, and maybe revamp some of what they have over there now to make it as functional as possible, but give them, that'd be a great deal of space on the back of the building. So that was an idea that I understand was kicked around, but I don't think we're off of that yet. And, so any of the funds that, I think, like Mark said, you can't plan for money you don't have, but, that's one of the things that, the city's been really good about not getting into a lot of debt. And, so if we wanted to do that in the future, this would be something just like we've done. We do have an escrow now for the police department, just like we have an escrow for the pool replacement that's coming down the road. So, we have 3 pretty big projects that I feel should be on our radar in the next 4 to 5 years. So,
Good questions and points. Councilor Kenny?
Okay, so, Joe, you talked before about how important it is that we have all these services, and I don't think there's anybody up here, I know I'm not up here advocating for cutting that budget. I have no desire whatsoever to cut that budget. I was a vote, along with all other six of us, a unanimous approval of that budget. I think it's at a good amount. My concern is the source of the revenue for that particular budget. So the numbers that we had ahead of time, where I could do some math, and I like math, I like to see the context of things. We got the report from the fire department that showed the number of calls, 296 specifically to the city hotels. We got this sheet earlier in the year that showed, I think it's the total number of calls. I don't think it's just EMS. I think it's the total number of calls. If it's just EMS, then our total calls for the fire department is higher, but showed 3,725 for the year 2025. So when you look at that, the number of fire department responses to the city hotels, which are the ones who are bearing the brunt of this, it's 1 call every 3 days versus 10 calls per day actually a little bit more than 10 calls per day total for the fire department. So when you look at that, there's a total of 30 calls a day coming to this every 3 days. I did it over 3 days so we could look at similar numbers. 29 of those are for things other than the hotels. So 96.7% of the fire department calls are for anything other than the hotels. 3.3% would be for the hotels. So to me then, rather than the way the ordinance was drawn up, which is just that there's this population increase associated with the transients, it's what workload does it actually increase? And it looks like it increases at 3.3%. So I looked at the budget, the overall budget. This is the general budget plus the levy is 7.3 some million dollars. 3.3% of that is $241,000. Between fire fee and emergency services fee, this doesn't include B&O or hotel motel tax, just between fire fee and EMS fees, it's roughly $630,000, which is 161% over the business, the workload that the hotels create, according to the numbers. Trying to look at this as objectively as possible. This is where I start to have issue with, we want them to pull their weight. Well, they're pulling 261% of their weight with that. And that, again, doesn't even include B&O. If you look at the fire department's budget is 26.9% of our overall budget. Doesn't include the bridge, just our just our main general budget. So 26.9% of that B&O is another 55,500. So that puts us up close to 700,000 that these hotels are providing to our budget specifically for the fire department. At a cost of only 241. I mean, what businesses would love to have that rate of return?
Are you not including the police department in those
No,
numbers?
I'm just because I can only have the numbers for context for the fire department. I don't have contextual numbers for the police department.
Yeah, well then, okay.
And so, yeah, right. So I just wanted to address the fire side, right? So so to me then there's an extra, just from what we're already collecting with the 3%, there's an extra $400,000 that's already available from this fee that we could then steer towards the police department. Now, you know, he gave us these numbers. We got them just before this meeting, so I haven't had a chance to talk to him. We tried to talk anecdotally real quick what's his number of calls per day versus what's on here. And it does look like from that it's a much larger percentage of their budget that's going to go there. So that's got to be taken into account. I want that full picture. Absolutely, I want that full picture. Because that's the only right way to do this, but I don't have those numbers. But it does seem to me that argument that, hey, we need this because, you know, on the fire side, they're generating all this extra business. I don't think they're generating the business that justifies the amount that we're collecting specifically for the fire department. Now, again, I go back to, forget that stuff, just go back to the principle of it. Who's responsible for funding them? This city is, not outsiders. I don't expect other cities I go visit to take my money beyond just the regular taxes they're already providing for me to start paying for their stuff. I only visit every once in a while. The taxes that I pay in sales taxes or whatever, that is what you're supposed to use to help you out. And that's how I see with these visitors. We ask these visitors to come in. We want them to spend their money here. You know, we want them to come to the bridge, all that other kind of stuff. And then we levy this extra fee. I mean, 13% of tax on a hotel room. I mean, that to me seems like a usury fee. I mean, that's huge. If 13% isn't enough already, man, I don't know what is. And that to me is big government overreach. We need to fund them at the rate that we told them we'd fund them, using revenue that's there and make some hard decisions in some other areas, I think.
Thank you. Any questions for Councilor Kenny?
The one thing I would say, just as a concession, is given that we've already passed a budget that took into account the 600,000, and if I'm looking at the budget right, we didn't take into account the other 1.5%. We just did it. It still just shows 600,000 in the EMS fee. From a practical standpoint, from a reasonable standpoint, as much as I'd love to see this thing go away, I don't think that's the right thing to do either. I think the proper compromise right now is to freeze that so that we can actually run the fuller numbers that I wasn't able to run, so we have a clearer picture of what's going on, freeze that, take the next year, and figure out how this is the best way to do it, and also try to find a solution where it's not an extra charge when the people leave. Because the last thing I want people to do is leave Bridgeport going, what a bunch of cheapskates, taking that extra $3 from me just because I came and stayed. If there's another way we can do it, like the fire fee where it's behind the scenes, then it doesn't piss people off when they come to Bridgeport.
Thank you. But Councilor Rice?
It's a hard act to follow. So I've got a few thoughts. One is, you know, the 13% tax Councilman Kenny referenced. That's very normal. AI that one or Google that one. You'll see that one range from 15 to areas outside of Pittsburgh and North Carolina push 19, 20, 21%. And they have really nice stuff there in a lot of places that we travel. I think everybody in this room travels an okay amount and different destinations. And I'll piggyback on that is I don't think that a $3, $4, or $5 fee causes a family to pull out of the parking lot. I just really don't. Big groups, a church group, a 4-H group that's looking at pricing things out at, you know, I'm not aware of that. I'm talking about the average consumer. At the same time, the average consumer drops, you know, $200 at Texas Roadhouse, it doesn't blink, right? I just don't think $3, $4, and $5 for a really nice property in a very safe and beautiful city sways decisions. Things we don't control. We don't control the national economy. We don't control gas prices. We don't control the debacle of what's happened overseas that has driven inflation up. But with that, our men in blue and our equipment, what we do know is what it costs today is not what it's going to cost in 27 and 28 and 29. We know it's not going to go down, but what we do know is going to go down, gas prices. They absolutely will. They will cycle. There will be more destination tourism. That stuff is ebb and flows, and I think we're in a peak right now that has diminished some travel. I hear some properties are ahead of their occupancy from this period last year. I hear some are down. What else we don't control? We don't control the quality of the properties. We don't control how they smell, how they look, the shrubs, the grass, all the stuff that makes touchy-feely of where consumers stay. The nicer, shinier side of town is more destination popular than the older side of town, and I think that's in every town in America. Bridgeport is no different. And so I could see why the White Oaks and even that piece and flows over into Charles Point is holding steady, if not up. And I can see why the older side of Bridgeport button up against Clarksburg, it just does struggle a little bit. And it will go up as the occupancy of that newer section gets filled out. I think that's just life. We don't control that. We also we don't control the quality of the equipment we need. We have to pay what it costs, and the insurances and just the people, everything that goes with our departments to be an ISO 1 rated city. I mean, I couldn't tell you what the benefit of that is compared to being a 3 or 4 or 5. It'd be dramatically an impact to our consumers and our residents. Retaining the best men and women is extremely important to me in those departments. Being able to recruit, being able to staff properly, because I know when the very best are job hunting and looking, they want to come to a city that they know is going to be reliable, is going to be well funded, and be able to provide all the resources they need. So in short, and that wasn't short, we have the ordinance in place. If it was my druthers, I agree with Mr. Kenny here. I would lock in $3 to June 30th of '27, giving us an opportunity to visit this further. But I really don't think we're going to. I don't think we're going to uncover anything we don't know. I really don't. I think we should go to $4 in July of '27. I think we should go to $5 in July of '29 and kick that to $6 in July of 30 and hold that. And if you look, that adds about 4 years to the timeline, and a lot will happen with the economy. Things morph themselves in that period of time, and the next council and the next council can address that as they go. That's all I have.
You know, I did do some research on the ISO 1 versus ISO 3 and 4, and you're looking at anywhere from a 15 to 25% savings. So it can come out to hundreds of dollars a year depending on the property and the insurance that you carry. So, you know, that's an argument for potentially raising the fire fee a little bit, because you're still not going to cut into the savings that they have. You know, it's a slightly different argument. But again, that's not going to, that alone is not going to make up the gap of the increases associated with this EMS fee. But it is a significant savings because these guys are so good on that ISO level.
Right. Any questions or comments for Councilor Rice? Councilor Campbell?
I mean, first of all, you know, I think this debate, because I understand how it affects the hotels, and they're very bothered by this, but them coming in last week sent volumes to me that they want to work with it, you know, and even you, Steve, standing up there saying, hey, you know, just freeze the $3. It's not like you guys are demanding and writing Facebook posts about how unfair this is to the hotel. So I'm grateful for that it's not an ugly situation, that we have some type of compromise. One of the big things, because I voted for this, I did it because I believed in what we needed for the fire department and the police department and moving forward into the future. I also did it because I strongly believed that other municipalities and counties would follow suit. I just figured that was going to be something that people would do. But that didn't happen. So we're kind of stuck out here with this fee that people are having to pay when they can drive 15 miles down the road and get a cheaper hotel and not worry about a fee. I do know that customers, because I've seen it, what is this fee? And then, of course, the clerk points to the sign and takes a little minute to read, but they're still confused when they have to, you know, pay $9 when they've already paid their fee to Priceline. So I get it. I kind of, you know, half of me says, can we keep it where it is, like Councilman Rice said, and look at this thing through the year and see what we can do to change it. But I kind of agree with Councilor Kinney in the fact that if we could find another way to collect it. I'm not saying it's not due. It's not something that's unfair. I don't believe that it is. But if there's another way to collect it, so, because I do believe the guests are leaving Bridgeport saying things like, how cheap can they be? And I kind of agree with, I thought, Chris, you did a great job explaining the fact that, you know, it's not their fee to pay. So the other thing that I heard this from 2 hotel owners that own 3 hotels in Bridgeport, and this kind of scared me, and the fact that, you know, if these hotels aren't profitable, and I'm talking about some of our higher end hotels, they'll just sell them. You know, they'll sell them to a lower brand and not pay the brand fee, and we see it all the time with these hotels. They just keep getting lower and lower and lower in quality, and we don't want those type of hotels up near White Oaks and Charles Point, all, you know, decorating that area. So that kind of frightens me in the future if these hotel owners say, you know what, I'm giving up on Bridgeport, we're just going to sell these hotels to someone else. So if there was a way, you know, if you were asking me where I stood right now, freeze it for a year, take a look at it, but more of a way of saying, is there another way we can collect this that's fair to the hotels, fair to the fire department, and guests have a more positive experience, and we're not putting that pressure on the front desk to say, you owe us $9, and they look at their child and say, how much did you get from the snack bar? But, so that would be where I'm at with it.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I'll just add a couple things. Good comments, Jason. I think you will see in the next 12 months that some adjacent municipalities are following a similar suit. And I just know that from direct conversations I've had with council members of those areas. So I do think it's coming. I think we were first. It's okay being first. If you're not first, you're last, right? But I think it's coming. And that does, I'm not saying it helps those communities or hurts those communities. I think it helps the overall competitive advantage that we're hearing some concerns about. And I think those organizations that are coming to us for a destination, being all the stuff going on at the bridge, right? There's just a lot of stuff there. Those families, I just don't think are going to stay 10, 12, 14, 15 miles away, 30 miles one round trip. They can't do it, and they're paying $4 gas, and they want to be where their hotels are and their buddies are. And I think those folks will stick. I'm digressing a little bit, but I saw a lot of comments from the last meeting on government travel, that the government travel was down. Well, and that goes back to my comments on just the national economy, that we don't control that, but we can just control and react to what we have locally. Thanks.
Well, my concern isn't so much the 1-2 night stay people either. It's not so much the government, it's the oil and gas folks that stay there for a long time, when they can just go down to the Hilton Garden Inn. That's not 15, 16 miles away. It's only 2 miles down the road, and it's the same distance to where they need to go. Those are the ones that concern me more than the ones just passing through. I am a little bit concerned about the parent of a 9-year-old who comes and plays a game at the bridge, has a good experience, but then that happens, and then they're coming back with their 10-year-old the next year for a similar tournament, and then they decide to stay at the Hilton Garden Inn or stay at one of the other places. You go up to Fairmont with the exit being at 124, 125, it's not that much farther of a drive. They might want to go to those other areas. So it's those that concern me more than any pass-through. And then, if the other municipalities and counties want to follow suit, hey, I'm the last person that wants to encourage big government with everybody around us. So if they do follow suit next year, then I hope we're first, and we're first in getting rid of this and letting them be the ones charging extra money. And then we get everybody else coming to us because we charge less.
Thank you, Chris. Recorder Murray.
You talked about a tough act to follow. I got 4 of you ahead of me. And y'all did a great job. You really hit a lot of the points very well. Clayton, and what you said, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Whitehall has been talking about this for the last year, that they want to do that. And some of Fairmont has been talking about doing this. So, and this, as you said, isn't a new fee anywhere you go. And I know I've kind of done the same thing. What's this fee here for? And it's an emergency fee or a fire fee. So, but it's pretty much a standard at a lot of the hotels, and so we know it's coming. And I agree with virtually everybody that I think we need to freeze it. And just because the last 2 years you've seen a decrease, that to me doesn't really set a precedence. That's not a lot of statistics for us to go on. So I'd rather freeze it till next year and sit and talk about it, and kind of follow Clayton's, maybe bumping $1 or something like that. And Steve, I'm not picking on you. I don't mean it that way. I just don't see where that extra $1 or $2 makes that much difference to people coming in. Now I understand where if they're going to be there for 30 days, that I could understand that. But I think you're going to find it all around the area, just not in Bridgeport. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for the recorder?
Just one more. I know that one of the good compromises that the hotel managers suggested was waiving the fee for long-term hotel guests. So I think that would be something to also consider. I don't know what that would be, but you're right. If you think of 365 days times $3 times 20 oil and gas guys, that is a lot of money. So I think that's something else, if we decide to freeze that we might need to consider waiving the fee for, I don't know, 2 weeks, 1 month. I don't know what that'd be. We'd have to look at more numbers too.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to also say that I think you all made a good comment that we need to have a better way to bill it. You know, because by putting on a fee on there that is unexplainable, or I think we need to somehow include it into the fee. Sorry.
Chief, if you, yeah, go ahead.
Just, one of the things we talk about when we talk about oil and gas, some of the oil and gas companies have those rooms occupied by 4 people. 24 hours a day, there's 2 people in the rooms. And I'm sure you see it as well. But that's one thing to consider is that when we talk about this rise in population that we have to serve, we did it, the numbers I provided, 788 people per night on average is what our population increases. That's based on a single occupancy room. It doesn't count for any of the multiple occupants that stay in that same room. So please consider that as well, because one of the things that, and I'm not sure if Steve or any of the other hotels have done, is establish what those long-term clients, their contracts, I don't know if that's ever been provided, because that's something that we asked for early on, because we wanted to consider that with the implementation of this, but they've never provided that to anybody here that I'm aware of. So that would be one.
There was a right to audit, you know, any of the hotels. I think that was written into the ordinance that they.
But
so,
before we established the ordinance, you said that you guys
got
would
one
provide.
on file.
Yeah, but no one's ever provided that, so that would help us determine how many rooms that truly affects, and I think that, you know, that's something that you guys should take into consideration as well.
I mean, we keep track of guest counts. We can tell you that right now. There each month. You know, number of rooms occupied, number of guests. On the weekends, it's gonna be
Yeah,
kind of the same, right?
I think it's the
With
long-term
teams.
contracts is the only thing I'm discussing.
And usually we're, sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead,
We're
please.
dealing with a purchasing manager or a person at that big company that's negotiating a dollar or two. I mean, those guys are great negotiators and they're way better than we are. So, you know, these are the things that we can't, it hurts our ability to raise rates, give our staff raises, hire the best people, and be competitive in the market with that. If we try to do both, now our bottom line is, and our owner's not getting anything. He wants to put money back into the hotel, but he can't do it. So that's the business situation we find ourselves in.
Well, I think the common theme is that, without a doubt, that we have outstanding, unbelievable police and fire services, EMS, and you know, we look at numbers, and your response numbers are important to all of us and to me, but also the preparedness, the readiness, the training, the numbers that response numbers don't reflect, that are just as important, because we have to be prepared for anything, you know, that goes on. So I think what I'm hearing from the dais here is that you know, it's an important cause. The fee's not out of hand, but we need to tweak how we're doing it. And hearing from the hotel folks is a good compromise would be if we could establish a process of how to collect that fee outside of the person paying that. I guess when you take somebody's credit card for incidentals, and then the next day that charge comes up on the incidentals. And if we could come up with some type of process of how we could collect that on the back end, I think that's what I think that's where we're at hearing from everybody. I think this has been a very good meeting. The information has been great. And I think that Councilman Rice's numbers may work, you know, extending it out to 30. What I would propose we do, and certainly open for discussion or argument, and this would be pending, if we decide as a council to freeze this for 1 year, city manager and finance director, are there funds available that we could escrow in the police department to make up for what they would lose during that 1 year period? Because I don't want to see their projects and their thoughts to go backward.
Yeah, one of the things we talked about is if you guys did decide to freeze it, that we, you know, and I want to work with Mark on this as well, but to look at those fund balance issues at the end of the year. You know, I was talking with Sharon and several other people. you know, those one-time funds like that, you hate to work them into your budget too much because you can't guarantee you have those funds next year. But, you know, one of the things we could look at is trying to, you know, look at some funding from fund balance that we generally use. You saw in the budget, we use that in some cases to balance the budget. But we also, in the past, have used that for things that got cut out of the budget or things that pop up or, you know, different things that I'm sure Sharon could speak way better to that than I could. But, you know, we could look at trying to make the police department whole for this year through some of those funds, through allocating those funds, and whether that be placing some of those funds into the escrow for the new police station, so we're not you know, sitting on that project anymore without providing those additional fundings for that.
And then, if I could interrupt real quick, so if we, my math would be about 300,000 is what the police department would be short. Fire department would be whole if we suspended that for the year. If that 300 would go into an escrow for like the building or whatever, should there be a catastrophic event such as UHC would pull out their contract, we could transfer that to operating expenses. I think we've done that before. We did that with the Bearcat and the training building and stuff. And I just think that's a safe compromise. I think everybody had great ideas. I just think we need a little time to kind of put them together, and the solution's there. We just need to find it.
Can you help me understand that? Because, you know, I've got the budget here, and looking at the emergency services fee line, the budget for 26-27 is $610,000. So we didn't even factor in the 1.5% increase.
Right. My thought on that,
So-
Counselor, is that, you know, that they were expecting that was something that the previous council thought that they should earmark, and going forward, they expected that. And I'm sure that the chief is wise enough not to spend money that he doesn't have, but I'm sure he has some plans and thoughts in his mind. And I thought we would just pull
But we
that.
didn't put it in our budget. I know we were planning on the $1.50 increase, but you look at the budget, that should be $900,000 then, because we generate $600,000 this fiscal year.
We would have added it later, because we knew it was up for discussion when we was on the budget.
Okay.
We didn't want to put something in there that then we had to cut, so.
Yeah, that's right.
So I guess, you know, I'm sure Sharon could explain it a lot better than I can, but I think that would be a good compromise if it's doable, and if, based on what Sharon thinks, and Joe, and of course the rest of the council. So I think that kind of incorporates everything we've all talked about.
So Mayor, could I make a motion? I'd like to make a motion on the item that we've been debating, that we freeze the increase in the ordinance at the level of $3 from July 1st, 26 to June 30th of 27. At that point, if there's been no further action, it will increase as laid out in the ordinance.
Okay,
Would that mean we would just delay the 1.5 or the full $3.50, or the full $3 would come into play?
The way I proposed it was give council another year to make a change if they chose, but the way I worded this was from July 1st, 26 to June 30th of 27, it remains at $3. On July 1st of 27, it would reflect how the ordinance is written.
So it'd go to $4.50 then, unchanged, yeah.
Just, if I may ask a question, would you also be extending the dedication to solely the fire department until the 2027 year?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
That would be part of my motion.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
And ultimately, we would have to do an amendment of the ordinance, but you guys can clearly give me direction here tonight, and I will draft that as you wish.
okay, is there a second?
I second that motion.
Okay, there any further discussion? I do. Does that include, it didn't include, and I guess we could make a second motion. Does that include funding the carryover 300,000 police department?
I will look at Sharon. Sharon, on that one, if that carryover wouldn't come from that source of funds, would it?
It'll be at the end of it'll be with the fund balance. At the end of the year, when I bring forth the money that we have to reallocate, you guys just tell me that, I'll bring it that way. And you'll.
So yes, it would.
Okay, so I guess, John, Councilor Rice would need to amend that motion to include that.
Yes.
So amended.
Councilor Kenny?
So seconded.
Thank you. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none or hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, so that takes us to 6. If anybody has any comments left in them, we'll start down with Councilor Rominger and work our way up.
Good meeting. We have a lot to discuss, but I feel good about the compromise that we made tonight, so thank you.
Yes, thank you. Councilor Kenny?
I just love that we had a full discussion like that, and we were actually able to go back and forth and listen to different opinions. I appreciate everybody's input, whether I agree or not with anything. I just like it when it's discussed.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Rice?
Good meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Councilor Campbell?
Good meeting. You know, if we can discuss this over the year, I think some help for the hotels would be, you know, a 10 rule. If you stay 10 nights, you don't pay. If you have a group of 10 or more, you don't pay. Just to kind of give more relief there.
Thank you, sir. Recorder Murray?
Excellent meeting. As we do, we all sit and talk about it, and we'll make some progress on it.
Thank you, sir. Again, thank you, everybody. Great meeting. It's a tough subject, but we'll work it out. So with that, do we have a motion for adjournment?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nays? Ayes have it. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.